Hey guys. Uh yeah, this will be for both of you actually. I'm just curious, first of all, like how much experience did either one of you have with Don Waddell before he got the job? Did you know him very well? And secondly, you've had two drafts with him now. What's it been like, working with Don as the GM of this team and draft days?
I didn't know him before he came here. So
I knew Don years and years ago when I was with the Ottawa Senators. Rick Dudley was their general manager, who was good friends and still good friends with Don. And I was looking after the farm team for Ottawa, which was Grand Rapids in the IHL, and Don was involved in the IHL. I forget what team anyway. So, but that goes way back. I've never worked with him before. But to answer the second question, and I don't want to speak for Ville, Ville can speak too, but he's been very good to work with running the draft. If we have players, up high on our list and we want to make a trade uh, to be able to achieve to get those players, he's done a great job of managing our picks and getting us into a position where we can acquire the players that we have targeted and want to acquire at that point in the draft.
yeah, nothing to add with what Trevor said. And he has trusted us to make the picks.
Thank you.
Next, we go to Aaron Portsline. Go ahead, Porty.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Don told us that the first three guys that you drafted, including Voss at 76, were on the top 14 on your master list. And I'm wondering if you've ever seen a guy drop that far that was that high on your list that you could grab him at 76.
Not what I can remember. It has not happened for me. To
Uh,
me,
With other teams, I have guys that have dropped or not there. Like I'll take a good example, and it's a good example to use in this situation because we drafted Alexander Romanov in Montreal. And we really had a strong affinity for him. We really wanted him, and we were able to get him. I think it was in the second round, but we had him a lot higher on the list. So it happens. There's 32 teams in the league out there, and we all have different opinions and project players differently. And you know, would- hopefully, looks like hopefully, if we were right, we got great value
Yeah.
this week. So time will tell, as Ville says. I don't want to steal his quote, but that's his famous line. So as of today, like most of the teams, probably all the teams, were happy with the haul that we had here. Now these are prospects. I mean, we hand them over now to our development team, our development coaches, to help them develop their young men, their prospects. Hopefully, they become future NHL players for the Columbus Blue Jackets.
yeah.
There
You know,
were
we
27.
feel great
Okay.
now, like every other team.
Yeah,
And with
yeah.
Malte, it was weird. Uh, he only played one game at the under 18 World Championships in in Dallas this spring. But we have seen him, throughout the year and different tournaments, and plus his own league. And I, I have liked him the way he has defended. He knows his identity,
Yeah,
and he plays with it every game. He doesn't try to be something else
yeah.
what he's not. So
Last
Well,
season. Oh,
that
sorry.
that Billy's talking about
yeah,
Malte Vast.
Yeah,
Maltevas,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
He's going to BU, so that was a little bit held against him, maybe in his home country, but that's where he'll be playing next year.
I see. Yeah. Last season there were 27 players drafted who were 6'5" or taller, which was an NHL record. This year there were 31. And I'm wondering if there are just bigger players out there, or if you guys and others are looking for bigger players and maybe drafting guys that wouldn't have gone in years past.
I don't think we're looking for anything different. I
No,
mean, I don't know what's in the water nowadays, but
Right.
they seem to be growing bigger. Maybe players that were going to be football players or basketball players are now hockey players, but it's just a coincidence. I mean, you look at the teams that are, get to the finals and they've got a big defense core. That's probably one affinity that all 32 teams have now towards NHL defensemen.
also, Jackson Smith and Malte was, they are big guys, but they can skate. That's the
Yeah.
main thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Mark Scheig. Go ahead, Mark. Unmute yourself, Mark.
Okay, there we go. I have a question for each of you. Ville, you just talked about Jackson Smith, and I'm just wondering, when there's a lot of really good defensemen in that range of the draft, what was it about him that put him in that spot on your master list? What made him stand out the most to you?
He can, he has very good size, first of all, and he's a very good skater. He can beat the forechecker, he can transport the puck out of D zone, and he has offensive instincts. He can beat the forecheckers, one-on-one.
And Trevor, for you, talking about Andrianov, and what are the challenges these days that you guys have to overcome to make sure that you get the most out of viewing Russians, especially when a lot of teams have to depend on video and maybe not necessarily as many live looks?
Well, first of all, we do have a Russian scout all season long there, so he was furnishing reports and met with some of the prospects throughout the season. Secondly, we have a goalie team or group that does our work for us, and then thirdly, Dan Milstein has a summer camp in June that he brings all his Russian clients to in Fort Lauderdale, and that's a good place for us to be able to see these not only goalies but skaters on the ice. It's not a game per se. They more or less scrimmage. There's 3-on-3, 4-on-4, 5-on-5 in practices, but it's good to get live looks and to make sure that what we saw in video is what they look like live. So that's a great thing that Dan Milstein's brought up from his company Gold Star to allow all the NHL scouts and GMs and goalie people to get a live look at his clients. And the fourth thing is the NHL Combine. This year was the first year they've allowed Russians back, so there were a few Russians at the NHL Combine. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see them live on the ice, but we had all the fitness testing and interview process and medical testing there.
Next, we'll go to Jeff Svoboda. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you. For either of you, whoever may know more about Owen Griffin, you look at his playoff numbers and at the end of the season, and he was a guy that caught a lot of eyes. What kind of maybe stood out about him, and especially at the end of the season when it kind of clicked for him and the success that he had? I know he's a guy that really, central scouting moving up like 130 spots as the season went on. What did you see really work for him to allow him to get to that point at the end of the season?
He played very well in the playoffs, and a little bit smaller size, but he played hard. He competed hard against bigger players, and he was able to produce.
He's a little bit of a late developer. Last year, he was inserted into the lineup there in Oshawa. He probably wasn't ready for it physically. He struggled a little bit, but this year he grew into the role, and they put him in a top 6 role in Oshawa, and he thrived there with better players like Beckett Seneke and Kayla and Richie, and he did a great job. He fit right in there. He was a driver of their offense, and like Ville said, his stature is a bit undersized, but he plays hard. He's not afraid to go into the hard areas and retrieve pucks or take hits to make plays or get net front, and really his intangibles are really strong, and hopefully that'll drive him, and hopefully he can grow a little bit and become a bigger body down the road.
He was very noticeable in the playoff games.
Yeah.
You didn't have to look for him.
Nice. I wanted to ask also my second question, just about the 6th-round pick, Victor Hedin Raftime, a guy that you Google him and there's not a whole lot out there. But what did you guys see in him that attracted you to make that choice?
Our Swedish scout Oscar Ackerström, he's working for that team also in Sweden, and he highly recommend him. He's a big body, left-handed D.
Yeah, he's another late developer. He really came along this season. I know his dad personally. He's a strength coach in Sweden, and so he's under the proper guidance there. And as Ville said, Oscar Ackerland really pushed for him, and that's the main reason that we drafted him at the point that we did.
All right, thank you.
Next, we'll go back to Brian Hedger. Go ahead, Hedge.
Another fun two-parter here. First one will be about Jeremy. Is it Larange? Do I have that?
Ranger, oui,
Yeah,
c'est ça.
out there in BC. Tell us a little bit about him to start off, and then just generally, getting back to the draft with a lot of big bodies in it, a lot of big defensemen. Do you think that teams taking a lot of those big guys sort of pushed a little bit of the more skilled, maybe quote unquote undersized guys down a bit for teams that had later picks?
Well, to get the bigger bodies that are good hockey players, they usually go, in the top 2 rounds. So that pushes the undersized players back into the later rounds. And if you look back in history, a lot of the players that have had success and became NHL players that were late round picks, a lot were Europeans, a lot were smaller players, a lot were players that ended up going to the NCAA route and had a little bit more time to develop. Now with Laurent from Trois-Rivières in Quebec, he took his craft out to play in the BC Hockey League, but in Alberta at Sherwood Park. He won so he's a rookie there in that league, and he won the scoring championship by a mile. There was nobody even close to him. The second place was his line mate. You guys can look up the figures, but he was well behind Jeremy. So he's going to UNO, University of Nebraska Omaha. So that gives him some good development time. But he's a skilled forward that has grit. He has the grit package. Again, he goes into the hard area. He's a little bit like Griffin. And so there's upside there. He's got time to develop. And he's got what undersized players need to survive at the pro level. That's the grit package and the tenacity and the courage and the skating ability to get in and play in the hard areas.
And just to quickly follow up, and when you draft guys like him and Owen, I mean, I see center on there, for the positions, but they can also play wing. Is the preference always, let's see if he can handle the middle and then, take it from there?
Well, that's up to the coaches wherever he plays. They can decide.
Lastly, we'll go back to Mark Schein. Go ahead, Mark.
Thanks, Todd. Last question for you guys. What do you guys think of how the decentralized draft worked? Do you guys prefer to go back to the old way? And how different was it this year in preparation?
Preparation was same. We had our meetings, we made our list, but the event was a little different, and I would prefer the old style, if you ask my opinion.
Yeah, the one thing, it was a unique situation. We're having the centralized draft that we've had in the past, where that's basically the only time the entire hockey world comes together. You've got the NHL teams with the scouts, the coaches, the pro scouts, amateur scouts, management, and then you have all the player agents are there, the media, all the fans, and it's people look forward to that, including ourselves. It's some of the times that we only chance we get to meet other people in the business that are on the pro side of things. The one thing it did take away was our ability to interview players the week of the draft, because most of the draft prospects go to the centralized draft, and we're all there, 4 or 5 days before the draft, and we can bring players in for another interview, whether we want them to meet Don if Don hasn't met the prospect yet, or we want to re-interview the player. So it took away from that ability that we used to have.